Hello, it's John Heaton, and the first video outside. The spring has finally arrived in Budapest, the sun is shining, and this was going to be a bit of an angry rant video, but the weather has seen to that and I don't actually feel too angry. But I have some views to express here because, I'll get to it. So this video is going to be about the McCartney archive collection and have we reached the end of the road, because the last one to be released in October 2015 was, what was it, 16? 15, yeah. No, 16, Flowers in the Dirt. And then we've had nothing since, and since then Paul has changed record labels and the new company has put out lots of single albums, and all of which on coloured vinyl, pretty pricey and hard to get hold of, and the archive situation seems to have dried up. So it's quite disappointing. But I'd like to point out, first of all, before I go through it, I'll just show you what the archive collection is. So he's been going through all his back catalogue, not all of it, but the 70s and 80s stuff, and putting out a deluxe CD with a whole disc of bonus tracks, and then the same on vinyl. So this is Venus and Mars, obviously, and the archive vinyl has all the original packaging and posters and stickers and everything. And then a deluxe set, and I don't have all of the deluxe sets because frankly they were too expensive, but I picked up this one because the price came down a bit, and beautiful pictures and reproductions of the lyrics, and just a great collector's item, as I say, quite pricey, but it's an excellent series, the McCartney Archive series. I'd say second only to maybe Bob Dylan, whose bootleg series is just outstanding in the amount of the wealth of material that has come out, and also Led Zeppelin have gone through all of their albums and come up with standard remastered editions and deluxe editions, and also box sets with books and stuff. So I'd say McCartney is third behind Dylan and Zeppelin in terms of that. But what's disappointing is there's 4 albums of his which he hasn't got to, and one wonders whether he will get to it. But before I go to that, just like to compare McCartney's archive collection to the other ex-Beatles. So George Harrison, the amount of bonus material out there available is next to nothing, and so I'd say George is the worst offender in terms of not or his estate not putting out stuff, because there's a wealth of studio outtakes and stuff which could be released but just haven't seen the light of day. Also the recent vinyl reissues, as I pointed out on this channel, I thought were vastly overpriced. I don't think one should have to pay much more than £20 for a new vinyl, and if it's an archive vinyl, maybe 25, 27, which is roughly what these ones were priced at. If you go above that, then I think it's a bit of a rip-off. And anyway, so that's that. So there are 4 albums from the 70s, Wings Wildlife, Red Rose Speedway, London Town and Back to the Egg, which haven't come out. And I just feel if the archive collection ends now without those 4, it'll surely be incomplete. And I've heard rumours that maybe the archive collection doesn't make much money, but I presume when they were released the items were priced in such a way that they didn't make a loss. Be surprised if Paul put out anything for a loss, but even if he did make a loss on it, big deal. He can afford to make a loss on it, I think, in the interest of integrity and putting out his entire back catalogue in the way the fans want to see it. And I know the 4 albums I mentioned have their detractors as much as they have their die-hard supporters. But that's not really the point. The point is all fans have their favourites, and to leave out 4 of his 70s albums from the archive collection, as I say, would be a travesty. And I don't know if I feel I would feel angry about it, would I certainly feel disappointed. So I'm hoping that this is just a temporary respite, and the new record company concludes that they should finish what Paul has already superbly started. Okay, so that was that. We did get the news that a few albums are coming out on coloured vinyl. Recent news, Wings Greatest on blue vinyl. Quite nice to see that out in the shops again, I suppose, but who needs it? It's just a compilation, and we all have the tracks on various other albums for the most part. Maybe Junior's Farm we don't have on CD, although I think it was included in on Venus and Mars. I'm not sure. Just maybe not. Yeah, it was. So Wings Greatest at most is a commercial compilation which people bought in the day, but I'm not sure how many people will be rebuying it now on vinyl. And the blue vinyl is not cheap, it's £26. So then we have Thrillington is being re-released, which I recently reviewed on this channel, which I am quite excited about, because that is incredibly hard to find on vinyl, and the nice coloured vinyl on kind of dark red colour will be nice to see. We're also seeing Chaos and Creation coming out on vinyl, which obviously has been incredibly hard to find, because when it first came out 2005, vinyl was not really in production, so if it was produced back then, in very limited numbers. So it'd be nice to see that. I'll probably pick that one up. And then New is the fourth one, which is coming out on pink vinyl. So these reissues are fairly welcome, I suppose, but it's not as important to McCartney fans as the Archive series, not even in the same league. So I'm not sure who things are aimed at, or who Paul wants to please. And if he's judging the next Archive release by which got highest in the charts, then I would dread to say this, but Give My Regards to Broad Street would be next, because that got to number 1 in the UK. But I think surely he's realised that that album is not as good as the ones I mentioned, the 70s ones. And I don't like the way Paul has accepted common wisdom that the early Wing stuff wasn't very good, just because a few journalists have told him so. I don't agree with that assessment. I don't agree with the fact that everyone praises Ram and slags off its successor Red Rose Speedway. And slags off its successor Wildlife and the next one Red Rose Speedway. I don't agree with that at all. I think they're all from the same period. Those early 70s albums are very much the same style and very much the same quality. So a little bit perplexed by that. If they were to do archive releases of the albums I mentioned, I mean, that Wings Wildlife maybe doesn't have too much bonus footage available, but the 72 tour was taped, I'm pretty sure, or actually, to be honest, I've only heard bootleg versions of that tour, and it wasn't very good quality, so maybe they'd struggle to make a bonus disc for Wildlife. But Red Rose Speedway, they certainly could, because it was going to be a double album. And so you've got tracks like Send Me the Heart with Denny on lead vocal, and I Would Only Smile, similar, and tracks like Best Friend, an early version of Soily perhaps, along with those B-sides, I Lie Around and Country Dreamer. You could easily make up a superb second disc for Red Rose Speedway. And London Town has various outtakes, such as Water Spout, and you could have early takes of various songs, like I'm Carrying Without the Strings. Back to the Egg, similar. A track called Cage is out there, and there's a version of Getting Closer with Denny Lane singing part of the lead vocal. That would be very interesting to have an official release on. So there's not a shortage of material, and these albums I'm talking about are not exactly flops. I mean, Wildlife got to number 11 in the UK and something similar in the US. Red Rose Speedway number 4 in the UK, number 1 in the US. London Town number 4 in the UK, number 2 in the US. Back to the Egg number 4 in the UK, number 8 in the US. So these albums were not flops. They sold in their thousands, and there's thousands of people who want to see those releases. So if anyone from MPL is watching, please prioritise those releases ahead of just releasing all the albums on normal vinyl. So that's my views for what it's worth. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.